Welcome to the latest Seahawks Draft Blog live stream. Rob Staton, Robbie Williams here. We are reacting to the Seahawks draft. It's not officially over yet, Robbie. They've still got one more pick in the 7th round. But we were actually just talking off air. I don't think either of us can remember a 7th round pick in the Carolyn Schneider era that has panned out. They've had some undrafted free agents that have worked out. They've had players hit in every round. But that 7th round is kind of like the elusive round for them. They haven't really found anybody. So if they make the pick while we're on air, we'll talk about it. Otherwise, I'll give some thoughts on it on SeahawksDraftBlog.com. But we're at the very end of the draft now. There are still some good players available for what it's worth. I've got a few thoughts on some of the players that are still available as well, because there has to be injury concerns, Robbie, and medical concerns with some of these players, because there's absolutely no way that the likes of, Emil Ekiyor, Mora Ajomo, Corey Trice, Res John Wright should be anywhere near the 6th, 7th round. So there's got to be some injury issues there. We've got super chats coming in, but before I go to those, Robbie, I think we both agree it's been a good day for the Seahawks. What is your assessment?
Yeah, I think right out the gate, taking Anthony Bradford, guy can come in and compete right away at the guard position, right guard with Phil Haynes. I think that's a really solid pickup. And then getting Cameron Young, I think, really fills a big need, and I think people will like him a lot more than I think they're going to expect. I think he's going to be a heck of a rotation guy to come in and play. And then, you add Mike Morse to that list as well. There's another defensive end guy who can slide around and play the tackle position, defensive tackle position as well. Got to be honest, I wasn't the biggest fan of the center. I've been banging home the center position. I just because of the small hands. I mean, on tape he looks fine, but I just thought we would never take him. And plus, I really don't know how to say his name.
Oluwatimi.
Oluwatimi.
The hands things reminds me of Kenny Pickett, Robbie. I mean, he's got smaller hands than Kenny Pickett, and we were going, tiny hands. Every time we talked about Kenny Pickett a year ago, and I want to see his hands. I just imagine this huge 309-pound center, but with these little baby fingers and hands.
Yeah, I guess I was just a little but hey, we took one, so I'm not complaining. It surprised me a little bit, especially with Weipler there. I thought he was going to be the pick. And then, Jarek Reed is a guy come in and play special teams. He's fast and can eventually take over kind of Ryan Nill's position. So overall, really happy with today. I think it's interesting, just kind of some of the things that where people have gone, players that are still available. I mean, it's been a fun day of drafting. I think the Seahawks really did a hell of a job filling out their roster. Guys who I think will actually come in and actually play too.
So have a look at the super chats. I'll give you a few thoughts after. Apologies, I'm going to butcher your name. Demos. Just wanted to say, great work, Rob, from a fellow Brit. Awesome effort this year. Feel they've hit it out the park. Just a shame Anthony Richardson didn't fall to 5. Thank you for that super chat. Much appreciated. A couple more have come in as well. This one from Christopher Best. What's the over-under for the amount of undrafted free agent defensive linemen we bring in? Well, that is a selling point. I mean, they'll be able to say, look, you can come in here and have a legit chance of making the team. So I think, what's the over-under on it? 4, Robbie? 5, maybe?
Yeah, I think 4 is probably a solid starting number, yeah.
There's still a few players on the board. There's not many defensive linemen left. A lot of the good ones have gone, but still some options there. Thanks for the super chat. This one from M Webb. Thanks for another amazing year of content, guys. I'm curious what your favorite and least favorite pick from our draft is. Well, we'll start with that then, Robbie, before I offer some thoughts on the players taken today. What is your favorite pick?
That's tough. As of right now, I say my favorite pick is probably Cameron Young. I just think I don't know. I really like a lot of all the guys that we've taken so far, but I think just I know people were really anxious to get a D tackle and kind of fill that position. And I think, like I said, I think getting him in round 4 where he was at, I think he's going to be a player that's going to produce for us more than I think people actually think he is. I think he's a hell of a football player, and I'm pretty excited to get him on our team. I actually jumped for joy when they actually announced that he was the pick. So, I'm pretty excited about him.
Well, I like a lot of the picks. I think my favorite is probably Zach Charbonnet, just because of the amount of time we've talked about him. And as we said, in the sort of latter stages of this draft season, we haven't spent as much time talking about Zach Charbonnet. But I feel like after 2 years of touching on him here and there and writing about him, and the ongoing discussion that occurs in the comment section of the blog, which goes on from like July through to April, we've constantly talked about him, and he was on our radar last year. We thought he was going to declare. He didn't declare. DTR didn't declare either. Guys went back to UCLA to have another go at it, and I think he's a top player. I think to get him where they got him, he's somebody who can have an impact straight away. The fact that he drives through contact, the fact that he can catch passes. You mentioned his blocking yesterday, Robbie. He's someone who's going to have an immediate impact here, and I think he just finishes off the offense in terms of an arsenal of players. You've got 3 terrific receivers now. You've got 2 excellent running backs. You've got 3 tight ends that they obviously like. They've got bookend tackles. There is not going to be any excuses for Geno Smith. He's going to have to come out there and deliver now because he's got everything. He's got a very attractive assortment of weapons and supporting cast. So I would probably say Charbonnet, just because I've had a soft spot for Zach Charbonnet for a couple of years, would be my favorite pick. But then, Devon Witherspoon, I loved Devon Witherspoon. I thought he was an incredibly violent player, Robbie. My position, as I wrote on the blog, was always like, I have to see them take a cornerback early to really, truly believe it. I didn't want to go all out and start predicting stuff like that when they've just never gone anywhere near it. And now that it's happened, and we can enjoy it. And I will always enjoy the Seahawks drafting violent players, as I've mentioned, like that play that's on the first play of every highlights video involving Devon Witherspoon, where he just absolutely, reads the play and hammers that dump off, and for a tackle for a loss, right? So I think he dislodges the ball. It's not a fumble, is it? So an incomplete pass, but that's the reason why I watch football. That's the reason I love the game, is for plays like that. So I would say a shout out to Devon Witherspoon as well. But thanks for the super chat. Great question. If you have a super chat, if you've got a question, if you've got a statement, if you want to give us your favorite pick, super chat it away, and we will put it up on the screen and discuss it.
Before you move on real fast, as people are saying in the chat, I don't know if you saw, or the comment section, that there's a couple of 7th rounders that actually stuck. Chris Carson was a 7th rounder, and Malcolm Smith.
Oh.
How do we forget those two guys?
Who was the other one? Who was the other 7?
Malcolm Smith.
Oh, of course.
Right.
How stupid of us.
It's been a long 3 days, so come on.
Yes, this has been a long week. This has been a long week. And the thing is, Robbie, is I was actually sat there because today's very long. It drags. Like Daniel Jeremiah said something like, this is going really quickly at the end of round 4. And Charles Davis dug him in the ribs and went, don't say that. And then the next 2 rounds have dragged so much. It felt like there's like 100 picks between Seattle's picks. So it has been a long day. Although I have to say, Robbie, I have been as I've been watching this, I've been thinking, I'm going to have I'm in the process of planning a home office / studio to be built so that these can look a bit more professional in the future. Rather than me sat here, and we're converting a room for that. And I was thinking next year, I just haven't enjoyed watching it on the NFL Network that much. And next year, I am thinking maybe I will get a setup where I can watch it on a screen in front of me, sat at a desk in a studio setup, and maybe just do a first round live stream. I know there was a lot of people asking for that this year, and maybe I will do it next year. We'll see. I do enjoy watching the draft, but this year more than I don't know. I've hated the way they've talked about, they're not allowed to tip picks, but they have done a lot of the whole, I think this might be a receiver. Here are 3 receivers they might get, but I tell you what, he's a good fit. And then it ends up being the pick. And that's kind of ruined a few of these picks for me. Graham sent a super chat. Graham, thank you so much. You've always got a nice thing to say in the comment section. And I really appreciate this super chat as well. Just for the great work, Rob, appreciate your efforts and sharing your work with us all, which has made my draft experience much better. And you're a fellow Yorkie, which helps Yorkshire. Yes. Thank you, Graham. Appreciate that. So on to the picks today, Robbie. It's nice that, I think the point of the blog, nice stuff on the point of the blog, is that when you get into day 3, I've always wanted to have just touched on the players, Robbie, that they're ultimately taking. And when Anthony Bradford's name was called, I thought, great, we've talked about him a lot, featured him in the TEF article. He was a great TEF test, a very explosive offensive lineman. And I feel like we've covered him, and I liked him a lot. I had him in round 3 as a high round 3 pick. They took him in round 4, so fantastic. And then with the second one, Cameron Young, we've talked about an awful lot. I thought he was one of the better performers at the Senior Bowl. I don't understand why he didn't get much attention. It was a similar case to Abraham Lucas last year, where there just wasn't enough attention on the way that he performed. There was one particular rep, Robbie, at the Senior Bowl, where John Michael Schmitz was praised for how he'd blocked Cameron Young when he was like barged into the backfield. And I remember breaking it down and going, hang on a minute, this is a great play by Cameron Young. It's not a good block at all. And I think he's better than a lot of the defensive tackles who were taken early. And I know there was a lot of Seahawks fans going, oh, they've not done it, Keanu. I actually think, it won't surprise me, Robbie. And I to be honest, let's not be honest here. I had Keanu Benson graded higher. But I won't be surprised if in 3 years' time, Cameron Young's ended up being a better player than Keanu Benson or a similar player. They are more or less the same type of player for me. So, one player taken in round 2, one player taken in round 4. Now, if you would say to me, would I rather have Benson and one of these pass rushers in round 4 or Derek Hall and Cam Young? I'd rather have Derek Hall and Cam Young. So I think they've done it well, the Seahawks there. I really like both of those picks. I think Mike Morris is an intriguing one. And, I think people will talk themselves into it, Robbie. And apologies if my internet connection's not great. It's sort of flagging up a little bit here that it's not great. I don't know if am I cutting out at all, Robbie? Or
a little bit. I was wondering if it was me, but yeah.
No, I think it's me. But okay. I'll cut down the draft track, and that might save a bit of bandwidth. So with Mike Morris, he was somebody who I struggled with during the season, Robbie. Talked about him a lot. People were talking about him as a second-round pick, top 50 player, possibly even a first-rounder. Mike Morris, the Michigan defensive end. And he was the next David Ojabo, could be even better than David Ojabo, some people were saying. And you watch the tape, and he always kind of left you wanting more. His intensity was on and off like a hot and cold tap. And you just wanted to see what he showed against Michigan State every week. Now, if the Seahawks can get that through, then he could be an absolute steal in the 5th round. I mean, people will lurch towards the Michael Bennett comparisons. I'm already seeing that. I'm always a bit hesitant to that because people said all that about Kerry Hyder, and look how that ended up. So I don't think he is Michael Bennett, but he is such a good potential player for me. He's somebody that you get in. He was talked about as a round 2. You get him in round 5. It's a shot to nothing. Let's see how it goes. And then, Mr. Small Hands, Oluwatimi, the centre, Robbie. The thing about him is, during the season, spoke incredibly highly of him. He was just so consistent, Mr. Consistency at centre. Just so productive in terms of, you'd watch Michigan and you'd never see a bad snap, really, Robbie. He was just damn solid, all year long. And yeah, do you know what? He's not the most agile guy. He ran a 4.68 short shuttle. He is, 29-inch vertical, 9.2 broad. There is something to like about him. So I definitely think that he can come in and compete for that job. He's very intelligent. He's very experienced. He's won awards. He's played a lot of football, Robbie. I think that he's for a 5th round pick. I think that's really useful. And then Jerrick Reed, I think as a special teamer who can come in and replace Ryan Neal, and they can work on him over the next couple of years, Robbie, to see if he can come into and become more than just a special teamer. I think that's a really impressive pick. I love his aggression. I love the way that he plays downfield. He attacks the running game. He's quick. He's aggressive. I had him in round 4. They took him in round 6. And that's the key thing, Robbie. I'm going to do a video with my draft grade. I've already written the article with my draft grade. I'm not waiting for the 7th round pick. The draft grade is done. It's all good to go. I'm going to do a little video later on. So keep an eye out for that. But the great thing about this draft, Robbie, is I don't think they've reached them a single pick. They've either been just to run through it. I had Devin Witherspoon as one of only 9 legit first rounders. They took him. I mocked him to 6. They took him at 5. I mocked Jackson Smith and Jigba at 20. They took him at 20. I had Derek Hall as a top 45 pick. They took him at 37. I had Zach Charbonnet as a top 50. They took him at 52. The trade out of round 3, Robbie. Get a 3rd rounder next year from the Broncos in daylight robbery steal of a trade. And then they take Anthony Bradford, who I would have happily taken at 83 anyway. I had him as a high round 3 grade. They're going to be round 4. They go and get Cam Young, who had a round 3 grade on in round 4. Morris, I had him in round 5, so it's par, but he had been rated high. I had him as high as round 2/3 earlier in the season, or when the season was ongoing. Oluwatimi, I had him round 4. They took him round 4. They took me round 6. So that's value across the board, Robbie. And I think that. And do you know what? I see a comment like this. You can't be serious. Well, if you've watched as much tape as I have over the last 9 months, then feel free to point that out and show me where I'm wrong. It's been a massive labour of love. I have watched these prospects. I feel comfortable doing a horizontal board. What is it, Robbie? And I think safely saying they have not reached on a single pick.
So just FYI, man, you're breaking up quite a bit on my end. I don't know if anyone else is experiencing that, but you're real fuzzy and kind of sound like a robot sometimes. I don't know if that's just me. If anybody else is experiencing that,
I'm seeing on here that it's saying that my connection's not great. So
okay,
hopefully it's not going to be too bad.
okay. So I think I caught most of what you were saying. Yeah, I think with people thinking we didn't reach, I think they took best player available as well. I think they just went that route as far as like reach. I don't think they reached at all. I think there are probably players that they want that didn't make it to them, and I think they've even said that. But really, it's I think they did an outstanding job getting guys who fit needs and can come and compete right away. I don't think there was any sort of reach by any means.
Yeah, I'd agree. I don't think there's been a reach at all. I think it's been, and I think the value is important, Robbie. And I appreciate the way that they've gone about this. Best player available, not forcing anything. I think that's really important, Robbie. But they've got some work to do. No one would ever say that this is a complete roster, that they've addressed everything. That I keep getting people tweeting me saying things like, well, they haven't done this and they haven't done that. And it's like, well, yeah, but you're not going to come into a draft and get everything sorted. I mean, if they had done, if they just ticked off needs, I don't think that would have been, they probably wouldn't have made the most of this draft, Robbie. You've actually got to add talent. My preference has always been address needs in free agency and then attack talent in the draft. And in the past, what they would do, Robbie, is they'd sort of band-aid things in free agency. Like, we need to fix the pass rush. Oh, Benson Mayowa and Bruce Irvin, that'll do. And then they'll force things in the draft. Oh, we'll trade up because we've got to do this and get Darrell Taylor because he's injured. He's not going to play this year, but we've got to do that. Or we'll take LJ Collier because he's the best defensive end left on the board, rather than like taking someone like AJ Brown just because the value was there, Robbie, or whatever. That's where they've got themselves into trouble. They've abandoned that. They've started prioritizing needs in free agency. Uchenna and Nwosu a year ago. This year, Draymond Jones and Jaron Reed. They've people wonder, the defense wasn't good enough last year. They've added talent at every level of the defense. Draymond Jones, Jaron Reed, Bobby Wagner, Devin Bush, Julian Love. That's talent at every level of the defense added there, Robbie. So the spine of the defense is improved. You then go and get a very, very aggressive, talented, violent cornerback in Devin Witherspoon to play across from Tariq Woolen. Fantastic. That's another great addition there, Robbie. Another impact player. Derek Hall comes in, pass rush. I've complained. We've complained, Robbie. They've not fixed the pass rush. They've not fixed the pass rush. They've said they would and they haven't done it. Those complaints got me a lot of criticism, maybe more so than yourself. But it was true. They didn't fix the pass rush. Kerry Hyder was never good enough. And Benson Mayowa was never good enough. That wasn't fixed. Well, I can sit here now and say with a high degree of confidence that when they spent a second-round pick on Boye Mafe, a second-round pick on Derek Hall, a second-round pick on Darrell Taylor, a free agent splash on Draymond Jones, a free agent splash on Uchenna and Nwosu, that's fixing a pass rush. And I applaud the team for that. And if it doesn't work, Robbie, it's not for the want of trying. I agree with the picks. I can't personally criticize the Seahawks. I can criticize them maybe for not developing the players and putting them in a place to succeed, Robbie. That could be a criticism down the line. But I can't criticize the plan for fixing the pass rush. They've invested heavily in it now. They've made a concerted effort there, Robbie. That's all you ever want to see as a fan. So I applaud them today and say, well done, just as I would have criticised them in the past when I didn't think they do well. Today's a good day, Robbie. Today's a day to celebrate the Seahawks and the moves they've made. And I think they have significantly improved the defense in 2 off seasons.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm wondering, like, if just looking at last year's draft class and how many people, you know, made impact plays or significant amount of snaps for our team that were rookies last year. I wonder how many of these guys will, because I feel like a lot of them, these guys that we have taken, will either take significant snaps this year or the following year. And I think that's really what you can ask for, is guys who are going to come in and make an impact on your team right away or shortly after. So I'm really happy with the draft. Really
Great
happy
point.
with it.
It's a great point. Devin Witherspoon will start. Jackson Smith and Jigba will start in the slot. Derek Hall will be a rotational rusher. And look, there's a chance that they'll Boya Mafe, Derek Hall, and he will be sort of in and out and not playing that much, but whatever. I can live with that because they've got all the pass rushers. You know, if they re-sign Bruce Irvin and bench him, I'll be annoyed. But you know, you don't want a roadblock to snaps there. But I don't think they're going to do that. Zach Charbonnet will contribute very quickly as the second running back, and he may even usurp Ken Walker. Who knows? We'll see. What a battle that's going to be, Robbie, to see who ends up being RB1 this year now. I wouldn't bet against Zach Charbonnet proving to be the lead dog out of these two. He's that talented. Round 4, Anthony Bradford could start. He could win a competition. He could beat out Phil Haynes. Phil Haynes didn't do that great last year. He could beat out Phil Haynes. And Oluwatimi could start. He could start at centre. So, and you've got a special team in Drake Reed. So that isn't that what that's how they succeeded, Robbie, wasn't it? 2010 to 2012. They were finding guys in sort of round 4, round 5, round 6 who ended up becoming huge parts of the team. You know, big impact players who developed into the key starters or role players. And I get the sense they've gone back to that now, Robbie, and they've gone back to that by prioritizing value. I think they've re-emphasized everything they need to re-emphasize: character, grit. What is a Seahawk? You know, impact players who are going to contribute. They're reshaping the attitude in the locker room. I mentioned it last week to you and Adam that I spoke to someone who used to play for the Seahawks, and they told me that the signing of Bobby Wagner and the signing of Jaron Reed was about getting that locker room right. You know, not that it was wrong last season, just sort of getting it right for the long term now. And that they wanted to add to that the 5th overall pick was going to add to that. It was another reason why I was so confident they weren't going to take Jalen Carter. I was convinced they were going to take somebody who, in the words of that ex-player, was a firebrand that was going to come in and really help the culture. And Devin Witherspoon is a perfect fit for that. And Will Anderson would have been as well. So it was going to be one of those two players by the sounds of things at number 5. It was Devin Witherspoon. But then you look at that, Derek Hall's going to have a big impact there. Jackson was a good character guy. So I think across the board, Robbie, they've done with the moves they've made, sticking to a plan, drafting without force, drafting for value. I think the Seahawks are back to the best in terms of.
I'll take over. I think Rob may have frozen, guys. Yeah, I think what Rob was saying though, just like kind of like this attacking the best player available, and there's oftentimes when you look at a team and I think last year was a perfect example of not having any alphas in the room, and now you got some guys who are going to come in and we got some dogs now. Some guys are going to come in and be absolute leaders on the team and make a real impact. And I think that's really important. I think it's really important to have those guys, and I think and we drafted quite a few of them this year. I think we've got a good nucleus now for the team that's going to help lead the team going forward. Rob, are you back?
Yeah, sorry. I can see it sort of flitting in and out a little bit. I think it might because it's the time of the day here in England, and maybe a lot of people are on the internet at the minute, so it's impacting my bandwidth. But apologies for that. I want to get through the super chats while I'm still, and if I break up again, Robbie, jump in. Just jump straight in and read them out. M Webb says, double dipping. How do you compare Ken Walker and Zach Charbonnet's prospects, both second round running backs? Did you have a similar grade? I had Ken Walker as a fringe first and Zach Charbonnet as a second. I think the main reason for that is Ken Walker was he ran a 4.3. Zach Charbonnet ran a 4.52. Ken Walker ran a 4.38 or 4.39 or something like that, a similar size. So I think in terms of athletic potential, Ken Walker was higher. Ken Walker drove. Sorry, go for it.
I was saying Ken Walker was Michigan State.
Exactly.
It was the whole team. Yeah.
And look what happened to Michigan State when he left. So I think Ken Walker I graded slightly higher, but both, solid players, really good, more than solid players, great prospects, great picks. I continue to see a lot of people giving like F grades to that, not happy with the Zach Charbonnet pick. It gets 2 thumbs up for me. I mean, look, the Seahawks you can't have one back. Look at all the teams who've drafted a second back in this draft, and you've got primary runners, but have spent a reasonably high pick on the position again. You have to have multiple backs. And the Seahawks have not been very good at sort of just chucking guys in there and plugging people in or who've come off the street or signed, on the cheap or stuff like that. They've not been very good at it. They've got 2 really talented backs now, both. And I always think, Robbie, I liked the idea of spending second-round picks on running backs. I think there's massive value there because players who would have been first-round picks 15 years ago are now going in the second round because the position's devalued. So you're actually getting a lot of value there. And I don't mind spending a high pick because the contract's cheap. Rather have, look, I'm not saying that they necessarily have to go and re-sign Ken Walker and Zach Charbonnet. I think it can be a 4-year thing. And if you want to keep them after that, then make a call. But I think you have got to be prepared to move on from running backs. It's when you start paying them, you're getting into trouble. But for the next 4 years, they're going to have Ken Walker and Zach Charbonnet on cheap rookie deals. So it's great value. And they can drive this offense forward. So I think it's fantastic. But thank you for the super chat, M-Web, and for bringing that topic up. There's a couple more that I want to get to very quickly. This one from Odium, who, again, has turned up with another $99 super chat. And I just appreciate it so much. Quite incredible. And I can't thank you enough, Odium. Here's to a great few months, super fun, and to no more 502 errors next year. I can only apologize for that. There's been quite a few people saying the blog's crashed or I can't get on and stuff like this. I actually, not that long ago, paid extra because the traffic was getting bigger and bigger and the site was slowing down. When I was even writing articles and publishing them, it was taking forever. So I upgraded, and it goes to show, Robbie, how busy the blog has been. It's crashed every time the Seahawks have made a pick.
Yeah, it's been real funny that 502 error when I get it. I just keep refreshing, hoping that I'm going to get in. I think probably a lot of people are doing the same thing, and then just bogging it down even more.
It's frustrating for me as I've written a blurb very quickly on a player, and then I get the 502 connection error, and then I have to write it again. So it has been frustrating, and I apologise for that. But it has sort of, thankfully, when it's crashed, it's come back to life pretty quickly afterwards. So it's not been too bad. I've sent them an email saying, "Look, can you have a look at this?" It's been amazing. I mean, look, the fact that we have as many people as we have watching this live now, and I've had it on all of the streams that we've done, and how many people have been visiting Seahawks Draft Blog over the last few days, I really appreciate it. It's never been busier. It's never been busier on here over the last few weeks. It's never been busier on the blog, and I can't thank you all for that. Christian says, congrats on your best year yet. Hard work does pay off. Quarterback questions remain. Bit disappointed that they came so close at 5. And that is the slight, I think that is probably the slight disappointment. And I wouldn't even necessarily call it a disappointment, Robbie, because I don't think they could have done anything. I repeat what I said yesterday. If they don't rate Will Levis, then that's fine. I trust John Schneider. I think you have, if I was going to trust him to take a quarterback at 5, you have to trust him to pass on quarterbacks. And he passed on Hendon Hooker and Will Levis. I think they possibly would have taken Anthony Richardson or CJ Stroud had they lasted to number 5, Robbie. But it is what it is. But it is a little bit of a fear moving forward that they don't have a long-term option. And that's not a criticism of Geno Smith, by the way. That's, he's got an opportunity to come into next year with all the weapons he's got and have a great year, Robbie. But if it doesn't happen and he regresses, you're in a bit of a hole, because then you're not going to pay him $32.1 million next year at a minimum, which could easily be $40 million with the 5 times $2 million incentives that he's got. You have to make a call on whether you want to go down that road for another year. And if you don't, you've got no quarterbacks on your roster, 0. And you don't want to end up becoming the Colts going year to year to year on quarterbacks. You do need to actually have some foundations there at the position. And I hope they're not going to force themselves into a corner, Robbie, where they end up having to make either a big trade for somebody, signing an expensive veteran who's no good, like Kirk Cousins or someone like that, which is the the Colts way of doing things, or either reaching in the draft or trading up aggressively in the draft, Robbie. And although people are going on and on and on about how great the quarterback draft is next year, I don't think it's as good as this year. I think the 3 guys at the top are at least on a level par with Caleb Williams and Drake May. And I'm not sure there's a 3rd guy in that mix next year. There's just better depth. There are more names next year. There's a middle class at quarterback as opposed to what we had this year. Although, in fairness, the teams have been rushing to take them, haven't they? So, I think that's the slight issue there, is that there's just not that long term. They haven't even drafted anybody on day 3 to come in and be a potential heir apparent or somebody they can work and develop. And that's been a common refrain. They have not drafted quarterbacks, Robbie. They've drafted 2 since 2010, Russell Wilson and Alex Magoo.
Will you put up this star performer comment?
Sorry, where's that? Is it new?
Yeah, it's the 4th one up from the bottom. 5th one now, it's going up. Star performer. He said, also, is Robbie going to speak? Yeah, there it is. I thought about that, to be honest with you. I was worried that, like, the way the Colts have drafted, it just feels like they've been drafting all Rob's board. And then just because I live out in Indianapolis, I was worried that people were going to worry I was conspiring and working for the Colts.
Oh, were you?
No. I'm definitely, look at where I'm sitting. It's terrible. I'm in a basement right now. If I was doing that,
well, we don't know what the background.
You've seen it before. I said, all dirty.
If you take that off, there might be a Peyton Manning jersey in the background there, Robbie. For all we know.
No, but I tell you what, I might go to a few more Colts games this year to watch, Anthony Richardson play. But no.
I quite like that, though. I mean, it was always like the Ravens and the AFC North teams that would take the players that I like, and I don't mind Chris Ballard. If I'm going to be aligned with Chris Ballard, that's fine. I quite like that. So, but I think they've had a good draft. But I think the Seahawks had a good draft as well. They've had a good draft. Chris Balding says, "I've made a live laugh out loud." Obviously, he's joined us for the stream. Hawks have had a good draft this year, says Chris. Thank you for that, Chris. Appreciate the super chat. There's a few more. K soon. Your R number 7 preference. Macintosh for RB3. What's R7? Is that receiver?
Round 7.
Oh, round 7 preference. Of course. Of course. It's not even 4 a.m. now. I've got no excuse. I'd be up for Macintosh as RB3.
Yeah.
How long till we're on the clock?
I don't even know where we're still in round 6, aren't we? Let me see.
I think it's just finished. Is round 6 just?
Yep, they just finished.
Yeah,
we're
just
on.
finished.
Yeah.
No, so there's a bit of time yet.
Yeah.
I'd be up for that, Robbie. I'd happily do that. I think just finish it off with a nice round 7 player, and then get into that undrafted free agent. But there's still a lot of players available. I haven't been taking players off my board while we've been on in the last half an hour, so I don't know who's left. But there are. I'm looking at it now. There's definitely some good options there. Mora Jomo one, I did wonder a little bit. I was supposed to speak to him, and then that interview never happened. And it was, I did wonder at the time, is there an injury issue or something there? Is there something that's going to hold him back that's not, that they're a bit fearful for his stock? Because he's a very engaging individual, very, very fun to listen to, and tested very well. So I can only imagine there's a bit of an injury issue there as to why he has lasted as long as he has. So yeah, I'm up for Macintosh. You up for that? You're giving a thumbs up to that, Robbie?
Yeah, I'd definitely take him.
Manfinger 4. Manfinger. That's like a new Bond film. Manfinger.
I was just thinking maybe it was our new center coming on board.
Manfinger. That's a child finger more like, isn't it? Oluwatimi. Baby finger. $10 from Manfinger 4. Thank you for that. And this one from AWRDF FDSA. I don't know what that stands for. Dwayne Eskridge, 2nd round bust, not developed by the team well. Was he a reach for the 2nd round when he was taken? Well, we both liked D. Eskridge, Robbie, and we're happy.
We did, yeah.
I was happy with the pick, so I'm not going to revise history here and claim that was a bad pick. I mean, a lot of people are Creed Humphrey. I am a bit bored of talking about Creed Humphrey. At the end of the day, he lasted to the end of the second round. Every other team passed on him as well, except the Kansas City Chiefs. Well done to the Chiefs. Doth of the cap to them. But there must have been a reason why Creed Humphrey, who had an unbelievable testing profile, lasted to the end of the second round. Sometimes it happens, Robbie. The Seahawks got Russell Wilson in round 3. They got Richard Sherman in round 5. They got Bobby Wagner in the late second. Sometimes these players just last, and you end up being the lucky one who takes them and benefits, and that's the Chiefs. I'm a lot disappointed that Eskridge hasn't worked out, but when you watched him on tape, he was so explosive, Robbie. You could easily imagine him. I'm not saying he was going to be Tyreek Hill, but he was that type of player on tape, wasn't he? That's so dynamic downfield. And this is a big year for him. It's not over for him yet, but he's got to take a step forward. He's got to show that he belongs in the NFL this season, or it's never going to happen.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a reach yet, but he's definitely been I think he's working on that label of bust for sure. We definitely liked him. He was fast, good hands. There's a lot to like about him. Just for some reason, he hasn't been healthy here either. I think that's another thing. So yeah, this is going to be a big year for him, and he's going to really have to compete to keep a roster spot. So yeah,
the other thing we've got to remember, Robbie, is that draft was the COVID draft.
Right.
And John Schneider's told that, and we had 3 players, and we basically tossed that draft off, and didn't really get involved. And I just think that they struggled. I think perhaps without the information and a very different year, I think they just really have found that so difficult and perhaps harder than some other teams. And it's a bit of a write-off draft. And maybe if they'd got a usual draft that year, they wouldn't have taken Eskridge. Maybe they had more information about him, and that's why ultimately they went with him. It's hard to tell, but I think that COVID year really messed with a few teams, and that was a very difficult draft to cover, and it was a very difficult draft to execute for teams. Gabor Pataki has given us, I don't know what HUF is. Is it Hungary? Maybe. Oh, hello guys, Hungary here. Of course it is. I just need to read the message. Thanks for the great work as always. I will miss the draft analysis for a year. What do you think? What will be our last pick? Maybe a linebacker, Diabate or Cam Jones? Could be a linebacker. I'll have to have a look at who's left. I've actually got rid of the draft tracker on my page now, so the bandwidth can live. But what I would say, Gabor, is yes, the draft analysis is done for a year, but I always say that the most important time on the blog is September to November. It's when the college football season's going. That's when I watch so many games per week. And in the comment section, and in my articles and in my videos and my streams, we talk about so many players for the first time. That's when we uncover these players. So if you are people who are watching this now, I would plead with you, yes, it's great to sort of get into the draft season, and people will dip into it in maybe late March and April. But join us, from the summer. As soon as this, I've got a big busy work day tomorrow. I've got a couple of things I need to do on Monday. I guarantee on Tuesday night I'll be watching tape on quarterbacks for the 2024 draft, because I enjoy scouting quarterbacks. I'm probably going to do a lot of that this summer, and I'll be talking about them. And it's not going to stop. So when this draft ends, stick with us, stick with the channel, stick with SeahawksDraftBlog.com. There's not going to be an article every single day. And I'm not going to be sort of talking about players every single day, but I am already planning ahead as to what we're going to be doing. There is going to be content on here, and we go again. So yeah, I'd stick with us, but appreciate the super chat. And in terms of a linebacker, Robbie, is that something you'd like to see here? I'm happy with any position, frankly. I don't think I think you're going to struggle to fill a need in round 7 anyway. So I'd just go BPA.
Yeah, BPA for sure. If it's a linebacker, we're going to need one. So yeah, I think if it's Cam Jones, I'm trying to look to see who else is available. Ivan Pace Jr. is available. Isaiah Moore is still available. Yeah, it could be a linebacker. But best player available would be kind of the route I would go. Yeah, Corey Trice is still out there.
Corey Trice is a great player.
Yeah.
How the heck is he still there?
Sure.
Again, there must be an injury issue.
I'm not really sure. Big, long.
Fast.
Yeah.
Anticipates plays well. There's a lot of good players still out there.
There
always is in the draft.
Yeah.
You get to this and you find out there's like injury things and stuff like that, which is always the heartbreaking thing about this, that players who could be so good never get a chance because of injury issues that they picked up in college. DJ Jerry Nye says, grade A draft, I'm ecstatic, Rob. Would you ever consider someone doing an updated design for the leaderboard on the site? Or is having Johnny Manziel good luck? Do you know what? This is funny, really, because I accept the blog is, I can't tell whether it's just maddeningly old-fashioned, Robbie, and disgusting to look at, or whether it's slightly nostalgic. But the problem is that I had a web designer who made that site for me in 2010. He then updated the banner for me every year up until, as you can imagine, the 2014 draft when Johnny Manziel and Jadeveon Clowney were there. And he then promptly disappeared off the face of the earth. I have not heard from him since. I've tried to find him. And the way that he set the site up, it's really difficult to update it. Like, I've actually spoken to a couple of web designers over the years, and they've just basically looked at the site and gone, you can't pay me enough money to do this. Like, I spoke to a guy actually like 3 weeks ago and said, how much to, I don't need a lot doing. I just need the look of the site to be different. And he quoted me a lot of money. And I went, okay, fine. Let's just bite the bullet. And then he had another look at it and he hasn't got back in touch with me because I think he just thinks this is impossible. I've had numerous meetings with people about a new website. The problem is there's just so much data from that site's been going since 2010. There's so much data on there. I think people, they don't want to go anywhere near it. So unless I'm prepared to just lose everything and start completely fresh and new, it's difficult. But I'm working on it because I don't want the website to look like crap. I don't want it to look like it's made 13 years ago. I want the site to look professional. I think it will probably boost the number of people who visit the site if it looks more professional. So, but I suppose if you can read the articles, that's all that really matters. So I'll keep working on that. I promise. But it's just it is a bit of a nightmare. But I do laugh every time I see Manziel and Clowney and all them guys up at the top. Some big super chats coming in, so let's get through these. Riley, $200. Riley, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. I cannot believe how supportive people are, and I'm really grateful for that. No questions. Thanks for the great work, Rob and Co. Go Hawks. Looking forward to your 2024 horizontal board next week. I have got a list. I haven't got a board, but I have got a list of names that I will put out over the next couple of days that are sort of on the early watch list. That's already written. Thank you, Riley. Really appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. Christopher Best. Thank you so much, Christopher. Really appreciate that. $100. Thank you so much. All the success is deserved. Appreciate all the work you put in, and we love to hear you're investing in the studio and the site. Yeah, I definitely am going to do that. I'm promising now. I'm going to overpromise and underdeliver with this. I promise to try and work on the site, but definitely there will be a new setup for me by the next season. I'm hoping by the college season starting, so it's going to be much more professional, and we'll see. I'll save the further details for that. For you and for Robbie, which of these rookies is going to have the biggest impact next year? What do you reckon, Robbie? Biggest impact?
Oh, I think Witherspoon, hands down. I think he's gonna. I mean, I'm assuming he means for the Seahawks. I think he has the potential to be defensive player of the year or defensive rookie of the year.
Like Sauce Gardner.
Yeah, I mean, I think he has all the potential. Guy is just good. I think that's going to be our. That's the one for me.
Chad W says, Rob, you roasted me about my take on Will Levis when I watched a few of his games. I probably didn't. I probably just disagree with you. I didn't see an NFL QB. What do you think of his drop into the second round? Well, I mean, what I would say about that is he was taken, 33rd overall, was it in the end? So, I'm not sure that's a great victory lap to say that you didn't see an NFL quarterback, that he basically went what in any other year would have been the top pick in round 2. Like, that's a borderline first round pick. Why did he fall? I don't know. I mean, let's put it this way. If the draft had gone, and I firmly believe this, Robbie, if the draft had gone Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, and then let's say somebody else had traded above Indianapolis to take Anthony Richardson, I think the Colts would have taken Will Levis at number 4. It's just sometimes these things work out this way. That I can remember it with Matt Barkley, and obviously Levis is a much more talented player than Matt Barkley. But the Cowboys, Robbie, had these like back-to-back faux pas, back-to-back drafts where they accidentally took a picture of their draft wall, with all the grades on, and it got out onto the internet. And they had Matt Barkley in round 2, and he ended up going in round 4. And it goes to show you that, you know, that there will have been teams that had a decent grade on Will Levis. But if the fit isn't there, you know, and obviously the Seahawks didn't have a top grade on him because they passed on him, and then like teams like the Lions and that. But like if the Colts couldn't get Anthony Richardson, I think they would have taken Levis. So what's his fall down to? It's probably just that supply and demand didn't match up for him. But when it got to round 2, the Titans obviously thought he's too, you know, they may well have had a first round grade on him. They've moved up, been quite aggressive to get him with a second pick in round 2. So it is what it is, you know. And he's had a few injuries, and there's all this talk about how he messed up his meetings. So maybe that was part of it. I don't know. But I'm sure that he's gone to a good spot in Tennessee, and all the best to him. Because he's a good guy. You know, I've spoken to him. I've spoken to his teammates. I've spoken to people in Kentucky about him, people close to him. I know he's a good guy, and all the best to him with the Titans. Just not when he plays the Seahawks, if he ever does. Joper says, thank you, Rob. $10. Thank you, Joper. Appreciate that. Appreciate that super chat. David says, just a big thanks, guys. Your work has been great to the point where my wife keeps shouting at me for watching this channel and the draft coverage. That's got a lot. Does your wife ever shout at you, Robbie, for being too focused on the NFL? Mine's pretty patient about everything. And she needs to be as well, because I would drive her up the wall if she wasn't, with all this draft stuff. PJ Parr says, Rob, your GM for this round, who are you taking as our Mr. Irrelevant 7th round crapshoot pick? Well, it's a great question, but I've not been following actually who's left. Let me have a look on the thing now, because you can put this on the draft tracker. So I need to put who's not taken, undrafted. Okay. Well, Joey Fisher's a tackle who is available, who's incredibly athletic. He'd be interesting. Andrew Voorhees, if you want to redshirt him, Robbie, I can imagine some interest there. You know, he's a good player to sort of redshirt for a year. It looks if that injury is going to make him go undrafted. Corey Trice at cornerback, but they're pretty loaded at cornerback now. Emil Ekiyor, I really like. Reg-John Wright, I really like. Maura Jomo, I really like. God, there's quite a few players left to alike. TJ Bass, Nick Broker, interior lineman. Do you know what? I'd probably be tempted to go with Nick Broker, just because I think he's got the potential to play center or guard, and I'd be willing to sort of see how he gets on with that. But then at the same time, if there's no injury issue with Corey Trice, I'd be incredibly tempted there, as I would with Emil Ekiyor. I know a lot of people like Ali Gay, the senior. I'm not really answering this question very well, Robbie. I'm basically saying there's about 10 players that would have been quite interested in. Kenny McIntosh. I do like Kenny. Do you know what? I'll go with Kenny McIntosh just because Kirby Smart called him a BAMF. So I'll go with that.
Sounds pretty good. I like that. I mean, I'd hit the other guy that I'd consider too that I just saw was Jason Taylor, the second's out there. Ooh, I really like him. I really, really like him. He's just absolute playmaker. You know,
a lot of good players left. I mean, that's the thing. It's hard to pick one.
Yeah.
A lot of players that are quite high on the board still. A Square, thanks for all the content. On to 2024. Precisely. On to 2024. Onwards. I think we've got through all of the super chats there. I think so. If you have another super chat and you want to stick it in, feel free. We are going to wrap up in about 10 minutes. We'll have done an hour. And another mention that I am going to do, we're going to do a grading video, which is coming out later today. And there's an article ready to fire as soon as the draft is finished. What's a realistic expectation for the Seahawks this season, do you think, Robbie?
I mean, like as far as wins?
Or what we can achieve?
I mean, I think they can achieve what they did this last year. I think they're going to be competing up there with San Francisco for the division title. I think it's going to be. I think Geno needs to progress a little bit better, play a little better. But I know he played well, but I think he needs to be more consistent. There's things that we need to see from him. I think our defense is going to be a heck of a lot better with what we've got, and I can see us, compete. I just don't think we're going to make a deep playoff run. I just don't think we're there yet.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think I'm comfortable with that. I'm very, very comfortable with the prospect that they probably need another off season to get to where they really need to go. And it's a tough schedule, and I think they'll be competitive. I wouldn't be surprised if they won 9 games again, Robbie. Maybe they're good enough to be competitive, but maybe not good enough to stride onwards with a tougher schedule, a lot tougher schedule than last year, to go and really take a massive step forward. But I think they're on the right track. I think that's all you can ever ask for as a team in this position. Are they on the right track? And I think they are on the right track. But are they ready to go toe-to-toe with the Niners or the Eagles? I don't think so. If they had to play a playoff game against the Giants in New York, or against the Vikings, or against maybe even the Cowboys, I'm not sure that they'd be ready to win that game. And also partly, I do think, Robbie, they have to sort of show it and for us to believe it. Can they go and actually win a game on the road if they're a wild card against a top team, or a good team, or a second-tier NFC team? I think we have to see that. And until they do that, I mean, like last year, their key win was probably against the Chargers, wasn't it? They didn't, and the Giants at home. Apart from that, they didn't really beat anybody that you were sort of, whoa, that's a really impressive win. So that's the kind of thing we need to see them do now. We need to see them go and take on tough opponents, give them a real game, and maybe win a couple of those to think, okay, here we go. This is a team that really, really can challenge at the very top. And if it happens, I'll concede that I was wrong. I'm sure you will as well, Robbie, and we'll enjoy the win, because we're Seahawks fans in the day. Even when you criticise the team, I want them to win every single game. It's fine. But I think they're in a very positive place at the moment. Massive thank you to Zmitaraya. Apologies if I've said that wrong. Can't thank you enough for the coverage, Rob, and all the streams, both of you. Top tier insight and entertainment. Really appreciate that. I am absolutely blown away by some of these super chats. I'm so grateful. I can't believe how many people are watching live. I can't believe that people are crashing the blog. There's so many traffic on it. I can't believe the super chats. But it's just like such a blast of positivity and energy, Robbie, just to see how much people are enjoying this Seahawks draft. They're just I think generally it's bringing people together. How much have we talked about? There's been a bit of divisiveness amongst the fan base, especially going into the draft with everybody having the preferences. And I get there's a bit of that, but I think it's mild. The Zach Charbonnet criticism of taking him, I think that's a minor quibble. I think generally this is a draft class, as with the last one, that will bring people together, Robbie, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, and in all seriousness, bringing the fans kind of back together with the Witherspoon pick, I think might be a really good thing, just because there's so many love Jalen Carter, hate Jalen Carter, love Anthony Richardson, hate Anthony Richardson. There was just so much turmoil, it felt like, between Seahawks fans. I felt like everyone can be look at Witherspoon and go, okay, he's a hell of a player, and then they can kind of, they just, things had gotten so crazy with that 5th pick, and I just hadn't seen anything like it, and it's just weird. And it's because we don't pick that high very often, so that's a good thing. So hopefully we don't have to be back in that position for a long time.
Do you know what? It's a great point. I think you've just nailed it there, Robbie. If they'd have taken Jalen Carter, half the fan base would have just been, oh my God, they'd have been frustrated. The other half would have been gloating. If they'd have taken Anthony Richardson, half the fan base would have been gloating. Half the franchise would have been kicking off about it. By kind of not doing either of those things and just taking Devon Witherspoon, everyone's kind of just gone, okay.
Yeah.
It really has took the fire out of all of the divisiveness. So in many ways, and it's a good pick. I do think he's a really good player. I'm looking forward to watching him play, Robbie. I really am looking forward to watching him play. This one from Emerson Barron. How did a Brit become a Hawk fan? Cheers from Chicago. The story is that I used to live in Vancouver, Canada, not Vancouver, Washington. I used to live in Vancouver, Canada. I came over to Seattle for a long weekend with my then girlfriend, who's now my wife. And when we were living in Vancouver together, and we went to watch a Mariners game. And the Mariners lost 10-0, Robbie. Can you believe that? To the Toronto Blue Jays.
Shocking.
But as we were leaving the Mariners Stadium, we walked past what at the time was called Quest Field. And I can remember thinking, I'd love to come back here and watch the Seahawks play. I was a fan of the NFL, but didn't have a reason to follow a team. So we made plans, came back to see a game. It was Monday Night Football, 2006, Green Bay Packers in the snow. Seahawks won. Brett Favre was playing. Matt Hasselbeck was playing. We had standing room only section. We didn't even have a seat in the stadium. It was snowing. I've got some great pictures of my missus just freezing to death. Like in my coat, I had to give her my coat. She does not look happy. I'm stood there like, yeah, this is great. I just loved everything about it. Seeing the 12 flag, I didn't know they were going to do that. The 12th man, the 12th flag going up and everything. It just got me. I just thought, oh, this is me. This is for me. And I can remember the next weekend being really excited watching the Seahawks play the Broncos in Denver, and the Seahawks won that game. That was the year that the Tony Romo botched snap on the field goal happened. I was hooked from then, all of that. And I've just been obsessed with the Seahawks ever since then. So even when I came back to England, I try and get over. I am definitely coming to a game this year. I am doing a game, whether it's in Seattle or whether it's an away game, maybe even both. Who the hell knows? But I'm coming, so get ready, and that includes you. Get ready, Robbie.
I'm ready, man. I just paid for my season ticket, so I've got 4. I'm ready.
We're gonna a game. We're gonna a game. We'll do a live stream in person, together on one screen. So that's happening. So that's the story, Emerson. I hope it's interesting because I don't know if it is or not, but that's how I became a fan. They were kind of like the local team for me for a while. Chad W says, what do you guys think of ESPN's coverage for the Hawks picks? Pretty good coverage picking best player available. I like it. But what is the real grades for their picks? I don't know about ESPN's coverage. We only have the NFL network over here. So I've not seen any of ESPN's coverage. I heard Michael Lombardi worrying for Mel Kiper because Will Levis was because Mel Kiper is probably the only person who's a bigger Will Levis fan than I am. And as he was falling, apparently Mel was getting quite stressed. So I've not seen any of their coverage. I don't know if you have, Robbie, but I will save my grade for the video that is coming later today.
Yeah, I was watching the NFL Network as well, so I didn't get to see the ESPN one.
Did you see? I don't know if you saw it because it was just before we came on the stream, Robbie. But a dog had peed on Daniel Jeremiah.
No,
they had some dogs on the stage, and it peed.
I remember them saying they were excited about the dogs and get the Blue Man Group off or whatever. They're like, way better, bring the dogs outside.
A dog called Patrick, who was named Patrick after Patrick Mahomes, pissed all over Daniel Jeremiah, which is quite great. It is what it is. Says you deserve it, Rob. Thanks for your efforts, which is much appreciated. Go Hawks! No, thank you. I'm absolutely blown away. I wish I had some more profound words to say for all this support that is coming in. But I just really, really appreciate it. Robert said hello from Vancouver, Washington. Hello, Robert. I actually met somebody I was wearing a Seahawks hat. I can't remember where I was. It might have been in Milan. And they said, oh, you're a Seahawks fan. How come you're a Seahawks fan? And I was like, oh, I used to live in Vancouver. And they went, me too. I'm from Vancouver, Washington. And I just played along with it because I didn't have the heart to go, no, the other Vancouver, slightly north. I was like, oh, yeah, great. Great place, isn't it? Yeah. This from Rebel Scum. It's quite a name. $4.99 super chat. Appreciate that.
That's a Star Wars reference there, Rob.
Is it? Sorry, I'm not a Star Wars person. Are you a Star Wars person, Robert?
Oh yeah.
Do you like the modern stuff or?
I mean, listen, I like the Mandalorian, the TV show. But
I am fascinated by how Disney's kind of ruining everything.
Yeah. They are ruining a lot. I still watch it because I'm a huge fan, but yeah.
What's going on at the draft? Like I'm just watching at the minute. There's like a heavy metal band on the stage.
No idea.
Is it because Andrew Voorhees has been picked by that's such a Ravens pick, by the way. Yeah, there's like scantily clad women and a rock band on the stage. Well, the Bills are just making a 7th round pick. I find it amusing. Just caught my eye there. Anyway, Matthew has sent a super chat in as well. Matthew, thank you with the Robert Carlyle avatar from Trainspotting. $5. Really appreciated. 12-man North says, phenomenal work this year, gents. Hard work leads to success. You guys are the BAMFs of draft season. That is the biggest compliment anyone could give us, Robbie.
I'll take that. I like that. Yeah.
And here's from Jason. Here's some love for Robbie as well. I think Robbie is the MVP. He's the true MVP. He's the one who keeps me in tow. He's the one who keeps this thing ticking along. Otherwise, it wouldn't be. The show would not be the same without Robbie.
No, I appreciate that though, Jason. Rob definitely does all the hard work. I just ride his coattail, so I'm okay with that.
No. We need to do it. Somebody says, is it Motley Crue? Oh, it says Motley Crue was supposed to play a free concert at the draft. Maybe it's them.
Ah.
Is that Motley Crue? Is it really? Maybe it is. They kind of look like they look old enough to be Motley Crue. Okay, the Seahawks are 7 picks away, Robbie. Should we stay on for the Seahawks and then call it a day?
Sure.
Get the live reaction to the pick.
Yeah.
Let's have a look who's. I think with the 7th round, teams should just get a shift on, frankly. So, okay, who's gone off in the 7th round so far? So Zach Kuntz, which is an unfortunate second name, has gone to the Jets in round 7. Dwayne McBride's gone to the Vikings. He was an interesting running back. Had too many fumbles, though, and that's one of the reasons why he's lasted. DeMarco Hellams, I thought was a good player. He had a nightmarish time last year with Alabama, but I still think there's enough there to work with. He's gone in round 7. Andrew Voorhees has gone to be redshirted in Baltimore. That's a very Ravens pick, as we were mentioning. Robert Carlisle, as mentioned him a second ago, was sent a $10 super chat in for the best coverage I saw, and I saw a lot. Thank you, Robert. And it is what it is, says. And don't forget about Adam too. Yes, Adam is. Let's give Adam a shout out. Although he's Jalen Carter. The streams, Robbie. He's not been here.
Just shows up when he wants. Hey, he's got
does what he wants.
He's got it.
And he's fallen to the Eagles. How about that, by the way? The Eagles basically, I can't tell whether it's fun or whether it's well executed or whether actually Howie Roseman just got carried away taking every player from Georgia. And then having taken every player from Georgia, Robbie then goes, well, we'll make a trade for DeAndre Swift.
Yeah. Yeah. That was an interesting trade, by the way.
Yeah, I know. Part of me was a bit jealous. I mean, how was the rest of the... even if DeAndre Swift doesn't do anything in Philadelphia, Robbie, that's a very cheap trade, isn't it?
Yeah, it was super cheap. Like they swapped, what, 5th? Or they swapped... What they get? They gave
the
up
Eagles
a
5th next year and then swapped picks. Like the Eagles don't need any help, Detroit.
Yeah.
You're in the NFC as well.
Yeah.
Like, don't help them. I mean, that's a shot to nothing. A future 5th round pick. You can trade down in round 3 and get that back next year, Robbie.
Well,
just ring the Broncos up. They'll give you a 3rd.
Right. Right. Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, there's something to say about those Georgia defenders, though. We've said it time and time again, like if they might not be as good away from each other, but if you're gonna build that defense and they play that well together, draft them, all of them.
Well, it's true. I mean, and I think that it is a good idea because with Jalen Carter, he is going to need people to say, hey, come on, Jalen. And it might be hard for, people assume, oh, well, Fletcher Cox can do that. And maybe Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham can do that, Robbie. But it might be better coming from Nakobe Dean and Nolan Smith and oh, God, what's the big nose tackle called?
Jordan Davis.
Jordan Davis, that's it. And people like that and Khalil Ringo, who've all played with him and been in the, been on the coalface with him. It might be better coming from them than maybe even some of the coaches or the more experienced players. So, I mean, they've given themselves every opportunity to make Jalen Carter a success now. But I think he was, I was mocking him to eat the Eagles in every single draft because I thought it was the perfect place with the perfect GM to make that pick. And I think that's true. I don't think he would have been the perfect pick to a lot of other teams. Sometimes it fits and it fits for them. And if it works out or not, no regrets. I hope we don't have any, if it does work out, I hope we don't have any Seahawks fans complaining about that in 3 years' time because I don't think it would have worked in Seattle. It may work in Philly, but it was the perfect fit for the player and the team. Cisco says, do you guys have a few minutes to discuss Jalen Carter, as we just were, and whether you think the Seahawks should trade for him? Oh, he's kidding. Oh, great. I love that. A great banter from Cisco. Do you guys? That's the great thing. We never have to talk about it ever again now, Robbie. It's done. It's done. Thanks for all the great coverage this year. A seriously fun past 12 months. I love that. Do you have a few minutes to discuss Jalen Carter and whether the Seahawks should trade for him? Love that. Absolutely love it. Kyle R says, thanks for all the hard work, Rob, and thank you, Robbie, as well. Also, nice work being the mole for the Colts, Robbie, feeding all the SDB stuff and having them steal our guys.
I'm just doing it so I could go watch them play.
Yeah, I think they've done good. I mean, it is going to be fascinating to see how Anthony Richardson works out there.
Yeah.
Especially because he's going to have to start this year, probably, Robbie. I mean, we were all talking like sit him for a year or two and needs that. And now it looks like he's going to be thrown in there. But it worked for Josh Allen. He just needed 2 years.
Yeah. Well, I think it's their coach, Shane, what's his last name?
Steichen.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to really kind of show what kind of coach he is as well. Like, can he do the same thing that he did with like Jalen Hurts? I think it'll be. I think it's interesting to see how well he's able to develop the quarterback. I think that's going to be interesting. It'll be fun to.
Nick Broker's gone to the Bills, and Nesta Jade Silvera's gone to the Raiders. They're 2 players that I would have considered for Seattle. So the Packers are about to make a pick, and then it's the Commanders, Rams, Packers, Colts, and then Seattle, and that'll be it. And then on to undrafted free agency. Matthew says, "Hey Rob, amazing work for the last 12 months. Now go get some rest, but first give 1 or 2 guys you're targeting in 2024." Okay. Let me dig the list out. So, a couple of names. Well, first of all, Robbie, should we start with the centre? Cedric Van Pran did not declare for this draft. I think he could easily have been a first-round pick, and I think he could be again next year. So that's an obvious one, Cedric Van Pran. Who do I want to pick off my list? I really like. Have you seen Michael Pratt, the quarterback at Tulane, Robbie?
Yeah, I've seen a little bit of him.
So there was the game not last season, but the year before. It was the first game of the season or the second game of the season where Tulane gave Oklahoma a real scare, and he was absolutely fantastic. And he has taken Tulane to new levels. And I'm really interested to dig into that tape properly this summer and have a good look at him again next year. But he is a player that I'm very, very intrigued by. I need to see what the measurables are like. I need to check the arm strength and the technique. I need to see what's really going on, whether he is a pro prospect to get excited about or not. But that mark your card, that is somebody that I will be spending a bit of time on. I love Cooper Beebe from Kansas State. And another player that I quite like is Triquezy Bridges from cornerback from Oregon. Although they've got a cornerback sorted now, aren't they? So probably not a big need. But I'll have a big list later, and you've got all the big names on there as well that you all already know about. Your Jeremiah Trotters, your Brock Bowers, your Marvin Harrison Jr.'s, the quarterbacks, people like that. So, yeah, that list will be up in the next few days. Another whopping super chat here from Matt Johnson. $100. Thank you, Matt. Really appreciate that. Great coverage this year, and thank you to everybody who has been sending in these super chats. I think we've got to them at the end. This is a nice message from Tom. If you are watching live, there are 600 people watching at the minute. If you could like the video, that'd be much appreciated. It helps the algorithm, and we'll get the message out there. The subscribers have gone up quite nicely over this draft, Robbie, but we could do with a few more. So if you can like and if you can subscribe, I know about 50% of you, 50% of you watch the vids and don't subscribe, but keep subscribed. There'll be more great interviews, more analysis, more thoughts on the Seahawks. And when the season gets in, we do a weekly reaction after every game as well. So Kentucky have taken Carrington Valentine. He was somebody who was like ridiculously highly rated on Daniel Jeremiah's board, but I had him in round 7. He's been taken by the Packers. So, Robbie, there is the Commanders pick, which is in. The Rams are on the clock. Then it's the Packers, the Colts, and Seattle. As we kind of fill time for the Seahawks, Robbie, have you seen the Rams draft setup? Have you seen
that? Is it the house?
They have that ridiculous house.
Yeah.
They call it the draft lab.
Yeah.
And they have the house. And they have
in the back and all that.
Yeah, and they've got all that. And then they've set up this like crappy little camera, which is worse than mine when the internet was going at the start. And it's like facing upwards from where the phone is, and it's like looking up at everybody like a small child is filming it. Like if you're going to have like a house with a pool and a draft lab, you could at least install some decent cameras into the room where they're making the call to tell the player that they've been selected. So I found that quite funny. I also found the Cowboys setup, Robbie, is just, I think that's hilarious as well, where Jerry Jones sits at the top of the table with like all of his minions surrounding him with the big star in the background. It genuinely looks like the guys from South Park are doing a piss take on the NFL draft. Whenever I see the Dallas Cowboys on the screen ringing a player with like Jerry Jones and all like Jerry's like his kids and his grandkids, and probably got some great grandkids now, and they're all sat around that table. They're all like dressed really smartly, and they're all politely applauding every pick that Jerry has made himself. I always find that quite funny. And the other thing I noticed that was quite funny today, Robbie, is the way that all the Eagles like staff go and stand at the back of the room in camera shot when they ring the player to let them know they've been picked. And then everyone just sort of goes, "Oh, well done, Howie. You've done it again. Well done, Mr. Roseman. Oh, congratulations, Mr. Roseman. Oh, let me shake your hand, Howie. Fantastic draft once again. You're the best." It's so cringe. I am eternally grateful that the Seahawks just basically have a random office, and like and John just basically rings the guy, hands the phone to Pete. They all have a big clap and they get on with it. So I'm grateful for that. Andre Jones has been taken by the Commanders. He was not somebody on my radar. So 3 picks to go, Robbie.
So question for you. Is there any player that you wish didn't go to one of the NFC West teams? You're like, I wish that guy would have went somewhere else.
That's a good question. Let me have a look at who they've taken again. So the Cardinals took Paris Johnson Jr. No. Ojulari, no. Williams, no. Wilson, no. Gaines, no. Tune, no. Papo, no. Clark, no. Stills, no. So my answer to that question in terms of the Cardinals, Robbie, is no. They didn't take anybody who I was either jealous of or worried about. Rams, Steve Avila, no. Byron Young, no. Kobe Turner, no. Stetson Bennett, hell no. Nick Hampton, no. Warren McClendon, no. Davis Allen, no. God, the Rams had a lot of picks in the end, didn't they? It was in the back end. Puka Nakua, no. Hodges Thompson, no. Mathis, no. Evans, no. Evans, the punter, no. And they've got a pick in now. So Rams, no.
Oh, they did just take Jason Taylor at second.
I'm not gonna be worried about that. The Niners, okay, the Niners did have one, Robbie. I find it hilarious they took Jake Moody in round 3, the kicker. Latu, Luter, Beal, Winters, not bothered about. But I am a bit annoyed that Jair Brown went there. I liked watching Jair Brown. I think he's a good character. I think he has got the potential to start in the NFL. I'm not going to have any sleepless nights over it, but I do think that was a good pick for the Niners. But generally speaking, Robbie, if I was a fan of the Niners, the Rams, or the Cardinals, I'd be looking at Seattle's haul and thinking, but I'm not looking at theirs and thinking that.
Yeah. I didn't love that Clayton Tune went to Arizona. I mean, I know
you liked him, didn't you?
I really did. I think he was one of him and Jaron Hall were the 2 guys that I was kind of, if we were going to take a quarterback later rounds, those were the 2 guys that I was kind of hoping to snag. So just don't, guys that I like, I don't want to see him going to another team that's in our division. So yeah, that was it for me.
Like this one, PJ Park. Rob, after this draft, I expect you to get a 10,000 Patreon from Jim Irsay. Funny thing about that is Jim Irsay is the kind of bloke who would give a 10,000 pound Patreon and probably accompany it with a crap tweet. So Jim, if you're listening, Patreon, you can PayPal it if you want, pal. Whatever you think, or you can pass it on to Robbie. We'll share it.
I'll just swing by his house and pick it up.
Yeah, there you go. A Square says, any undrafted free agents to look out for? Well, I mean, any of the players we mentioned earlier, I suppose. There's a lot of official 30 guys still out there, I think, that have not been picked. So they are, let me find my official 30 notes. So Calvin Avery, I think, is still out there. Drake Thomas, Robert Cooper. Oh, so not that many. So maybe some of those guys you need to keep an eye on if you're looking for undrafted free agents. But basically, the guys we've talked about, I think, there's still some good players out there.
Oh, you were talking about Alex Forsyth yesterday. As a possible, he's still out there too. I wouldn't mind snagging him as an undrafted free agent. Bring him in.
He's had a lot of injuries, and he's like the opposite of athletic. But I think if you bring him in as a free agent, then why not? As an undrafted free agent, why not? Let's have a look at him. Another brilliant super chat here from Glenn Peer, $49.99. Thank you, Glenn. Really appreciate that. Brilliant work, Rob. Can't thank you in the community for all of the effort in the past 18 months when we were gifted this bounty from the Wilson trade. Looking forward to what's up. Cheers, boys. The Wilson trade has left the building, Robbie. We know what it is. We know what the haul is. I find it fascinating. As you just wait till, if you said the Rams made their pick, because it's still saying, are you just looking on Twitter, Robbie?
No, I mean, it's on ESPN.
Okay. I don't know why they haven't announced it. Is it because they're doing the Run Rich Run thing?
I mean, I
saw on the NFL Network.
They've already got. So Jason Taylor went to the Rams. Lou Nicholas III went to Green Bay. So we're waiting on the Colts, and then we're up.
But I want you to announce the pick.
Okay.
In the style of if you're actually on the stage. So when you get the pick, I want you to.
I thought about that. It's funny.
I want you to go with the whatever pick. Well, let's find out what the number is. So I want you to say with the 237th pick, the Seattle Seahawks select, and then I want you to give the name of the player, the position, and the college.
It's going to be some damn name I'm not able to pronounce.
I hope it is.
It's going to be embarrassing.
It's a ridiculous name.
No, I thought about that though when they're doing all these. I should announce the Colts pick. That's what it do. They're doing all these Germany guys are announcing picks on NFL Network who are fans. Like, man, Rob, you should do that. You should.
I know someone who announced the Jets pick in round 4. I used to be in a fantasy league with him, and he works for TalkSport. He announced that the NFL, during that pick, he said that the TalkSport is the home of the radio home of the NFL in the UK, forgetting that we also cover the NFL on BBC 5 Live every year, and I'm a co-host of that, so wanted to give him a big thank you for that. For ignoring the fact that, well, I suppose they have to blow their own trumpet sometimes. But either way, I knew someone was doing that. And yes, Roger, if you need me to come and do a 5th round pick or something like that, I'm happy to do it. Happy to do it. Or get me and Robbie in there. They had little fan people in there, didn't they? Or influencers or YouTubers on there. I could imagine us up there, Robbie.
Yeah. Get up there and get a see.
Yeah, would you do that?
Hell yeah, I would do. It's the first thing I would do. You see all these other people go up there and make an absolute.
Sit down, because I've got a few things to say.
Yeah, I mean, just go on an 8-minute rant before I say my pick. That'd be great.
Get the shepherd's crook.
Yeah.
Enough. Announce the pick. Okay, so yeah, I expect when the pick is known, Robbie, I want you to stop.
Okay, I will.
I'll sing the ESPN jingle. And then you get to go and announce the pick to everybody here. So nobody look and let Robbie announce it as if he's on the stage when we get to it. One thing while we're waiting, I will say this, Robbie. I am interested. I think scouting quarterbacks is a very interesting process because there's so much more to it than just what's on the tape. It is who's the person, what are they like, how are they going to fit into the locker room, are they sort of the genuine leader? When I was speaking to Scott McLuhan and I was asking about what he looks for in a quarterback when I did the interview, and he was legitimately talking about, it needs to be, someone who can go in the huddle and can command people. They have to be the alpha. And I don't think a lot of these college quarterbacks, Robbie, as talented as they are, have got that. They are talented people, but they don't have that Joe Burrow mentality that you kind of need when you get into the league. I can see that the Seahawks pick is in. So as soon as we know that I'm waiting. I can see in the reflection that they're going to announce it, but I want Robbie to still announce it anyway.
Let me see if I can.
Hang on. No, don't tip the pick, Robbie.
Oh, okay. Just wait until it's actually posted.
Wait until it's announced, and then announce it.
Okay.
I don't know what the delay is. It's the 237th pick. Yes.
Hold on. You just blew it. I don't know. Hold on.
Yes.
Still not updated. Hold on.
Yes, you're gonna like it, Robbie. You are gonna like it.
Okay. Update.
Do you want me to do it? I'll do it. With the 237th.
Oh, I thought. Okay, go.
With the 237th pick, the Seattle Seahawks select Kenny McIntosh, running back, Georgia.
All
The
right.
man who Kirby Smart said was a BAMF.
Let's go. All right.
What an end. Woo!
That's a great pick. All
I love
right.
the fact we were live for that. That's just capped things off, Robbie. Capped things off. Where did I have him graded? I need to get the board out here. Where's the board? God, it's taking forever.
I had a
Kenny
feeling as soon as you
McIntosh.
wooed that's
Round
what it was.
3.
Man,
You're going to be round 7, man.
it's a steal.
What a pick. What a pick. Bravo. Anyway, you'll have to wait for my grade video, which is coming out soon, but I think people will be able to guess what grade I'm going to give them. What a pick, Robbie. I mean, he just ran through everybody last year. Brilliant receiver. He's go and watch his interviews. Go and watch. People need, after you've watched this and after you've watched my grade video later, Google Kenny McIntosh interview and find the interview of him smoking a cigar after Georgia had won the national championship. It is hilarious. What a character. Great. What a character. I love this. I love it. Wow, what an end. What an end. What an end that was. I hope everybody enjoyed that as much as I did. Jan says, Rob, greetings from Germany. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Jan, for that super chat. Much appreciated. John stuck a $10 super chat in. I love that Beast Quake.
That's great.
Avatar there with the Quaker Oats logo. Loving that. This one from HODL Savage. Hey, Rob, thanks for everything you do for the Seahawks community. What's your initial grade for this draft haul? Well, I will not spoil it now. I appreciate the super chat, and I'm not shirking the question, HODL Savage, but I've got an article ready to go. I will have to add the Kenny McIntosh pick to it, but an article ready to go, and I will also do a video on what grade I've given the Seahawks, which is coming up very, very shortly. So stay tuned for that. That is coming up. I'm looking at the live chat now, Robbie. Everybody reacting.
Yeah.
To the 7th round pick, and it is just a stream of celebration. Absolutely love that. Absolutely love it. So, I'm going to save my draft grade. Maybe and if you have a super chat, if you want to stick one in, it's the last. We are going to wrap up in a couple of minutes here. Stick it in. But Robbie, if you have, I'm not going to give my grade just yet, but you can. What is your draft grade for the Seahawks?
I'm going to give this draft grade an A-. I really like it. I think they did
A-.
Yeah, I think it's a really good, just a good group of picks. I mean, the only reason it's not just a solid A is literally for the fact that I think there was guys that they probably wanted and weren't able to get. And, we had talked about paying the iron price, and if they were going to do that, they should have, and they didn't. But I think for the actual draft, I think A- on the players. They went out, they had a plan. They went out there and got some absolute alphas, some guys. They got some guys. I just said A-. What? I know I'm going to get shredded for saying that. But no, I think I just think it's. I'm not saying it's about. Listen, I'm giving them A. It's a great draft. I think this is a phenomenal draft. I think they hit it out of the park, and I'm excited. They got some guys who can come in and play some serious snaps next year, and that's really what you want.
Slacker Hero sent a super chat in. Hey guys, I like the overall draft, but I can't lie that I was disappointed that they weren't able to get one of the quarterbacks. I guess next year, it is a point. As much as I think this is a great draft for the Seahawks, and they've got better, but I think that there is an element of worry, I guess, about that position just for the long-term future. Look, Geno Smith's a perfectly adequate starter for this year, but they're essentially in the same position they were 12 months ago, Robbie, where he's essentially on a 1-year prove-it deal. And if he can prove it, he will get his $31.2 million next year because it'll be back-to-back successful seasons and the Seahawks will feel okay about it. And that's fine. If that happens, great. But if he doesn't, you have to, what level of performance is acceptable to justify paying $31.2 million? Or, then have to win 9 games and he gets $2 million, Robbie. So he could be somewhat average. The team could prop him up a little bit. They could get to 9 wins, and then he's due $33.2 million. If he then has there are certain other incentives, like if he tops his touchdown tally, he can still do that, but maybe throw 20 picks, he gets another $2 million. So then you start thinking, right, now you've got to make a call on this, and that's when it becomes a little bit difficult. So that is a concern. But on the plus side, quarterback scouting. Summer of quarterbacks again for the second consecutive year, and we get to watch all those guys. And I said it yesterday, Robbie. I do think that John Schneider will have a soft spot for Michael Penix because of his arm and his character. And he did mention yesterday that they wanted to get into next year's draft, Robbie. And I wonder if that is because they do feel they might have to trade up. And I wonder if they need that extra stock just for doing that, perhaps. We'll see.
Yeah. I hope it's not Penix, but that's it.
Mookel, super sticker, $10. Thank you, Mookel. I don't understand what the super stickers are, but thank you for them. For that anyway. Appreciate it. And Frank B says, with as much quality as the Seahawks have gotten in the last couple of drafts, does it create some concern that next year will be more need-based, trying to fill the last couple of pieces needed? No, because I think you can do that in free agency. And if, like I say, yeah, I think you can do that in free agency. You can. It's possible that those needs align with best player available. Like if they still need a center in a year, they might just take Cedric Van Pran in the first round, and I think he was a first-round talent. So it can fit in. It's not always that you have to avoid need. Sometimes need meets best player available. So there's a possibility of that as well. So I'm not too worried about that, but we're a long way from knowing how the needs are going to align with value in the next year's draft. So there we go. I did one final thing on the quarterbacks. I noticed that John Schneider name dropped Quinn Ewers earlier yesterday when he was talking about Jackson Smith and Jigba. Or was that the day before? Either way, he name dropped Quinn Ewers as saying he's the best route runner, and Quinn Ewers would say that as well. So I know Tony Pauline loves Quinn Ewers, so maybe he's somebody to keep an eye on there. He's got the kind of hair that John Schneider would like. Although, of course, he's got to beat out Arch Manning as well, doesn't he, at Texas? So that's going to be interesting. Robbie, it's been a pleasure spending all this time with you. Let's catch up again soon. And if there's any big Seahawksy news, we can perhaps come together on that and have a chat. But it's been an absolute pleasure, sir, throughout this draft draft process, throughout the last 3 days, to chat to you about it again. And I'm already looking forward to the next football season and maybe meeting up for a game, up in person. Thank you for all of the super chats. I'm so grateful. Thank you to everybody who said nice things about the blog and the channel. It genuinely means a lot. And I appreciate that people, one, care about anything that some random bloke from Rotherham has to say. And two, that you have sort of enjoyed the coverage and have got something out of it. And it has been a lot of work. So for people to say that, it really does mean a lot. It makes it all worthwhile. If you could do me one last favor, like the video if you haven't done it already, and leave a comment in the comment section, even if you've been joining in the live chat, because it will help promote the video and it will help shift things along. Spread the word if you can, let people know we're out there. And even though it's finishing now for another year, the draft, I'm going to be watching the quarterbacks during the summer, lots of articles. From September, it's mad on Seahawks Draft Blog, and it's just a lot of analysis, a lot of scouting, a lot of college football games being watched. You don't want to miss out on that. So if in the past you've just jumped in March or around the combine time, or even right before in April, join us in September. There's a great community there. We love talking about draft prospects, college football, and the Seahawks. So join us for all that. And Robbie and I have a lot of Seahawks coverage as well, discussing the game. So please do join us for that. And that's it. Hope you enjoyed the draft. Stay tuned for that grade video coming soon, grade article coming soon, more coverage over the next few days. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. But for now, we'll see you soon. Bye for now.